Hello, I'm not Chuck, and today I'm at our farm in North Mississippi. We had a storm to come through last Saturday. That would be January the 11th, and we had a little trouble as a result of that storm. I'm going to turn the camera around and let you see what I mean. Well, as you can see, we used to have a barn, and now we don't have one anymore. Two pine trees were blown over. One crashed across the front corner of the barn, and the other one hit the roof right in the dead center. Now, the old barn was built in about 1960, so it doesn't have a whole lot of value, but my tractor was inside the barn and still is inside the barn, and I'm a little worried about what the damage is to my tractor. I'll walk around and let you see the damage from all four sides. Currently, I'm looking at what would be the west side of the barn. That was the place where the entrance was. You can see one of the doors has been knocked completely down, and the other one is still standing there on its hinge. But as far as being able to get into the barn, that access is blocked by the tree in front. So I'm going to walk around, starting with the west side, which is where you're looking now. I'm going to turn a little bit further east with the camera and just take a slow walk around the barn. So here we're looking at what would be the north side of the barn. Camera is facing south, and you can see that you see the tractor inside the barn. It looks like at least this front tree completely missed the tractor, so that's a good sign. We'll keep going around the barn. Looks like there were plenty of pine cones on this particular tree. They hadn't gotten very big yet, but lots of them on there. I'm not sorry to see the pine trees gone. They were kind of in the way anyway, but I am sorry to see that the barn is damaged like it is. Now we're looking at the northeast corner of the barn. That part seems to still be standing. You can see the second tree protruding across the top of the barn, across what would have been the roof, except that the roof is pretty much caved in by the tree itself. Still, there's not much damage to the tin on the outside of the barn, but the barn is leaning quite a bit to the north and to the east. Continuing around the barn, this is the east side of the barn. You can see that the east gable end is still intact, and of course you can still see the tree lying across the roof of the barn. Continuing toward what would be the southeast corner, my little utility trailer there appears to be unharmed. That's a good thing. This was actually, at one point, was a horse stall. There where you see the trailer, and back in that way it was a place where a horse was allowed to be stalled at night. We haven't used it for that in quite some time. The inside of the barn is accessible through that opening. And I believe that looks safe enough. I might just take a quick trip inside and see what things look like. Well, that's a fair amount of good news. There are some boards that have dropped down on top of the bush hog. The bush hog itself probably is not damaged. Doesn't look like any of those boards are big enough to have done much damage to the bush hog, if any. Looking at the tractor itself, it also seems to have survived without much damage. I see that part of the roof is actually resting on the tractor. I'm going to take another little risky step or two and move closer underneath some of this debris. I see one of the major steel posts that was supporting the barn has been pushed out of its place by the tree. Here I'm looking up under the canopy. Looks like the canopy itself is broken down. The roll bar doesn't seem to have suffered any damage. Probably not. It should be a pretty tough structure. Looking back around, no damage to the tractor. Really survived amazingly well. What we need to do is make sure now that when we get the trees off the barn, we don't damage the tractor in the process. All right, since I'm in this deep, I'm going to go ahead and take a step or two around the front of the tractor, trying not to touch any of the debris for fear that I might actually cause the tree to fall the rest of the way down. And I certainly don't want to do that. Backing up just a little. Now we have a good look at the front of the tractor. No damage to the hood, no damage to the front end loader. In fact, the only significant damage that I can see is to that canopy, the shade canopy that's been pushed down and broken. All right, here we go with one more trip. Place where I shouldn't really go, but I am going. Okay, I'm looking kind of into the sun here. But there again, no damage to the tractor. No damage to the implements which had been stored. That's my box blade, my rake, pretty much untouched. There's my little lift pole that goes on the back side. Looking back this way, that's what's called a pond scoop. It's been hit. Probably won't know if it's damaged until we get the tree off it and get it out. The pond scoop itself, however, is pretty tough, so it may well be okay too. All right, continuing on around. See, I'm going to get a little closer here. Again, we're looking at the bush hog, the drive mechanism. Really lucky, I guess, that there was no more damage than there is to the tractor. Of course, the barn itself is pretty much destroyed. I also have some tower stored here. That's 100 feet of Roan tower that I had intended to use to put up a television antenna. One corner of the roof seems to have come down on the tower. Won't know until we get that out whether it's damaged or not. Gate that I had stored over there doesn't look like it's hurt, probably. So, all in all, kind of a nice surprise that the damage is as minor. Excuse me. It's a nice surprise that the damage is as minor as it is, considering the size of the trees that fell. Okay, I'm backing out now from under the barn. Glad to be out of there. And you're looking now at what is the south side of the barn. The camera is pointed in the northerly direction generally. And we'll walk on around. So apparently the two trees came up together and turned up just one root ball. You can see there that they're two separate trees, but they obviously both came down together and turned up one big root ball and left quite a big hole in the ground. Just to give you an idea, I'm reaching up about as high as I am tall, which is 5'9", to reach that root right there, which is close to the top of the root ball. So that root ball is probably, well, let's see, I would estimate it to be about 15 feet wide, and from the bottom of the hole to the top of the root ball is probably 7 feet or so. So I guess that's it for this initial look at the damage. I'll back up here, let you have one more look at the entire situation. I'll say once again, I feel pretty lucky that the trees fell on the barn. No one was hurt, nothing significantly damaged except the barn, some minor damage on the tractor, very likely, perhaps some damage on the pond scoop and the tower, although there's no evidence of that just yet. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and don't forget, I'm not Chuck.